40 verses on reality. Invocation. Without awareness of reality, can reality exist? Because this awareness, reality, itself free from thought, exists as the source of all thoughts, it is called heart. How to know it? To be as it is in the heart is to know it. Those who have an infinite fear of death take refuge in the feet of the Supreme Lord, who is without birth and death. Can the thought of death occur to those who have destroyed their I and mind and have become immortal? Because the world is seen, we have to infer a common cause, a Lord, possessing unlimited powers to appear as the diversity. The pictures consisting of names and forms, the seer, the canvas, the light, all these are He Himself. All schools of thought postulate the fundamental triad: God, soul, and world, although all three are manifestations of the One. The belief that the three remain eternally lasts only as long as the I or ego lasts. To destroy the ego and remain in one's own state is best. Of what avail to debate whether the world is real or unreal, sentient or insentient, pleasant or unpleasant? Extinguishing the ego, transcending the world, realizing the self, that is the state which is dear to all and free from the sense of unity and duality. If the self be with form, God and the world will be also. If one be formless oneself, how and by whom can their forms be seen? Can there be sight without eyes? The self is the I, the limitless I. The body is in the form of and includes the 5 sheaths. Is there a world apart from the body? Has anyone without a body seen the world? The world is but the 5-fold sense objects, which are the results of the 5 senses. Since the mind perceives the world through the senses, is there a world without the mind? Although the world and the awareness of it rise and set together, it is by awareness that the world is known. The source from which they both arise and into which they both set always shines without itself rising or setting. That alone is real. In whatever name and form the nameless and formless is worshipped, therein lies the path of its realization. Realizing one's truth as the truth of that reality and merging into it is true realization. The dyads and triads rest on the basic one. Inquiring about that one in the mind, they will disappear. Those who see thus are the seers of truth. They remain unruffled. Knowledge and ignorance are interrelated. The one does not exist without the other. inquiring to whom is it that knowledge and that ignorance, and arriving at their root cause, the self. This is true knowledge. Is it not ignorance to know all, but the all-knowing self? When the latter, the substratum of both knowledge and ignorance, is known, knowledge and ignorance themselves both disappear. True knowledge is neither knowledge nor ignorance. Objective knowledge is not true knowledge. Because the self is self-effulgent, having no second to know or be known, it is supreme knowledge, not empty nothingness. The self alone is knowledge, is truth. Knowledge of the diversity is ignorance, is false knowledge. Yet ignorance is not apart from the self, which is knowledge. Are the ornaments different from the gold which is real? The I existing, you and he also exist. If by investigating the truth of the I ceases, you and he will also cease, and will shine as the one. This is the natural state of one's being. On the present, the past and the future stand. They too are the present in their times. Thus, the present alone exists. Ignoring the present and seeking to know the past and the future is like trying to count without the initial unit. Do time and space exist apart from us? If we are the body, we are affected by time and space. But are we the body? We are the same now, then, and forever. To those who have not realized the self, as well as to those who have, the body is I. To the former, the I is only the size of the body, whereas to those who have realized the self within the body, the I shines without limits. This is the difference between the two. To those who have realized the self and to those who have not, the world is real. To the latter, its reality is confined to the spatial measurements of the world, whereas to the former, it is formless and shines as the substratum of the world. This is the difference between the two. Disputations as to which prevails over the other, fate or free will, are for those who have no knowledge of the self, which is the ground of both fate and free will. Those who have realized this ground are free from both. Will they be caught by them again? Without seeing the self, the seeing of God is a mental image. Seeing the self is seeing God, they say. Completely losing the ego and seeing the self is finding God, for the self is not other than God. God is the self, we said, but how to see one's own self, which has no second to perceive or reflect it? Here, seeing the self is knowing the self being pure knowledge, itself the seer and itself the seen. Knower and known are thus one and same being. Therefore, seeing God is being dissolved in God or self. The Lord shines within the mind, illuminating it. Unless it turn inward and be fixed in the Lord, it is not possible for the mind to know Him. The body does not say I. In sleep, no one admits he is not. The I emerging, all else emerges. Inquire with a keen mind whence this I arises. The insentient body does not say I. The ever-existent consciousness is not born, thus cannot say I. The I of the size of the body springs up between the two. It is known as Chit Jad Granthi, or bondage or individuality, ego, subtle body, samsara, mind, etc. Know that this formless ghost, the ego or I, springs up in a body. Taking a form, it lives, feeds and grows. Leaving a form, it picks up another. But when it is inquired into, it drops the form and takes to flight. The ego existing, all else exists. The ego not existing, nothing else exists. The ego is thus all. Inquiring as to what the ego is therefore surrendering all. The non-emergence of the I is the state of being that. Without seeking and attaining the place whence the I emerges, how is one to achieve self-extinction, the non-emergence of the I? Without that achievement, how is one to abide as that, one's true state? Like the diver who dives to recover what has fallen into deep water, controlling speech and breath, and with a keen mind, one must dive into himself and find whence the I emerges. Seeking the source of the I with the mind turned inwards and no uttering of the word I is indeed the path of knowledge. Meditation on I am not this, I am that is an aid to the inquiry, but not the inquiry itself. Inquiring who am I within the mind and reaching the heart, the I collapses. Instantly, the real I appears as I, which although it manifests itself as I, is not the ego, but the true being. what remains to be done by him who, having extinguished the ego, remains immersed in the bliss of the self? He is aware of nothing but the self. Who can understand his state? Despite the Vedas proclaiming thou art that, it is sheer weak-mindedness not to investigate into the nature of oneself and abide as the self, but instead to go on thinking that I am not this. It is ludicrous to think I know myself or I do not know myself, admitting thereby two selves, one the object of the other. That the self is only one is the experience of all. Without trying to realize in the heart that reality which is the true nature of all, and without trying to abide in it, to engage in disputations as to whether the reality exists or not, or is real or not, denotes delusion born of ignorance. To seek and abide in that which is always attained is true attainment. All other attainments, such as siddhis, are like those acquired in dreams, which prove to be unreal on waking. Can they, who are established in reality and are rid of illusions, be ensnared by them? The thought, I am not the body, helps on to meditate, I am not this, I am that, and to abide as that. But why should one forever think, I am that? Does a man need to always think, I am a man? We are always that. The theory that in practical life duality prevails, whereas non-duality prevails in the spiritual attainment, is false. Whether one is still anxiously searching for the self or has actually attained it, one is not other than the 10th man. So long as a man feels himself the doer, he reaps the fruits of his actions. But as soon as he realizes through inquiry who is the doer, the sense or doership drops off, and the threefold karma comes to an end. This is the final liberation. Bondage and liberation exist so long as thoughts of bondage and liberation exist. These come to an end when an inquiry is made into the nature of he who is bound or free, and the ever-present and ever-free self is realized. It is said that liberation is with form or without form, or with and without form. Let me tell you that liberation destroys all three, as well as the ego which distinguishes between them.